It's Monday, January 26th, and we are finally on the other side of this historic winter storm we've been tracking. Unfortunately, as of this morning, 21 people are confirmed dead across 14 states. More than 847,000 are still without power this morning in single-digit temperatures. Nashville lost nearly half of its power grid due to 3/4 of an inch of ice. Mississippi got hit with its worst ice storm since 1994. Some of these people won't see power for weeks. Down in Little Rock, we broke the snowfall record that had stood since 1899. Over 19,000 flights were canceled, and Sunday was one of the worst travel days since the pandemic. This thing stretched 2,300 miles wide at its peak, and more than 230 million Americans were under weather alerts at the same time, which is a record. The pattern we started tracking way back in mid-January verified almost exactly like we said it would. Unfortunately, it's time to keep looking into the future because there's more dangerous weather coming. Let's start by talking about these temperatures because it's going to be downright brutal tomorrow morning. It was cold this morning, but it'll be even colder tomorrow morning, especially in areas where people don't have power. We're expecting a low temperature tomorrow morning of 16 degrees in Shreveport, 16 in Dallas. Up in Mississippi, Oxford to Greenwood, we're talking about 13 to 16 degrees. Nashville, we're going to be lucky to make it up past 5 degrees. We're also looking at 7 degrees in Clarksville, 10 degrees in Jackson. Over in eastern Kentucky, we're going to be around 9 or 10 degrees. 5 in Lexington, 7 in Louisville. It's actually going to be colder in Kentucky and Tennessee than it will be way up in Iowa and Nebraska because we've got so much snow on the ground acting like a natural refrigerator. Speaking of snow being on the ground, there is an incredible amount over in the Northeast. We definitely overperformed in the Northeast. There are many locations with more than 20 inches of snow on the ground right now. The entire state of Pennsylvania got hammered. Northern New Jersey, New York City, up into Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts all saw massive accumulations. We talked about Boston potentially getting 2 feet of snow, and we came very close to that prediction. By the end of the day, because of the residual snow squalls that are still moving through, we might actually exceed that forecast, so it's going to be 9 degrees up there tomorrow morning. Get ready for the brutal cold in upstate New York as well. Of course, it's going to be very cold in the northern plains because this is where all that Arctic air is originating from. It's all coming down from Canada through Bismarck, Minneapolis, and Sioux Falls. This cold pattern is far from over. We've got more frigid air coming. This is one of those situations where it's not going to really warm up that much. We might get a little bit above freezing in Nashville during the day on Tuesday, but we go right back down to around 15 degrees for Wednesday morning. During the day on Wednesday, we might make it up past freezing again, but it might be quite a while before we stay above freezing in Nashville. Look at this extended forecast. We still haven't had an above freezing temperature in Nashville, and I'm looking all the way out to February 2nd. It might be a very long time before we warm up significantly. I'm talking about the entire Tennessee and Ohio Valley, and of course the Great Lakes region up into the Northeast. The cold is locked in and showing no signs of leaving anytime soon. We are going to definitely have some warmth down in the Southwest though. We're going to continue to have this ridge trough pattern where western areas are on the opposite side of what we're dealing with in the east. Get ready for mid-70s pretty much constantly, maybe even reaching 80 degrees from Los Angeles down to Tucson. Once again, this pattern is going nowhere anytime soon. We're going to have much below average temperatures across the entire southeast through 10 days from now. We could be well into the beginning of February and still be talking about below average temperatures all the way down to the southern part of Florida, but especially in Alabama, the Carolinas, up into the mid-Atlantic. We're going to continue to be warmer than average in the west. Everybody west of the Rockies is going to be enjoying pleasant weather. There's going to be some of that warm air that tries to make it up even into the northern plains as we get into the latter part of this outlook period. Alright, let's talk about what we can expect as we go into the future outside of just cold temperatures. It's going to be frigid, we know that, but what happens with this persistent cold pattern? Are we going to get another storm? Are we going to get anything else dangerous developing? Well, we're definitely going to have another clipper system coming through the Great Lakes as we go into Tuesday. That's going to bring even more snow to the northeast. It's not going to be tremendously significant, but some places will pick up a couple of inches. It's also going to turn on the lake effect snow machines again for western Michigan, northeast Ohio, northwest Pennsylvania, and much of upstate New York. So get ready for another round of heavy snow over the next several days as the cold air just runs over the relatively warm lake waters. At some point, these lakes are going to get completely frozen over, but until then, the lake effect snow will continue. Check this out. Another big anomalously strong high-pressure system is building up in Canada. The European model shows another huge blast of cold air that might actually rival the one we just experienced. Of course, it does link up with the storm system in the Gulf of Mexico. This one looks a little bit more dynamic than the one we just saw in terms of its potential power. It's definitely smaller in scope, but here we go. Another potential winter storm impacting parts of the South as we go into Saturday, January 31st. This actually starts, I would say, back on January 30th, as some rain in Louisiana and some snow showers in the Ohio Valley. Everything links up and phases over the Appalachian Mountains. Once again, we see a potentially significant nor'easter starting to form as we go into Saturday, January 31st. Here's heavy snow developing in the Piedmont region of the Carolinas, up into the Appalachian Mountains. Then boom, this turns into a potentially major blizzard for the Northeast as we go into Sunday, February 1st. Now, do I think that this is going to happen exactly like this? Absolutely, probably not. But this is a very strong signal for a major winter storm, just like we had a strong signal 6 days before our last historic event. Don't pay too close attention to the fine details this far out, but there is definitely going to be another storm system that we have to track with another significant blast of cold air coming down into the southeast. Once again, this one could be even more intense than the one we're currently recovering from. Yes, this could throw snow back into the Carolinas, back into Kentucky, back into Tennessee and West Virginia. As of right now, it looks like the focus area should be the immediate coastal region from the Carolinas up through the Northeast. This system will shift back and forth hundreds of miles over the next couple of days. Once again, don't get too emotionally attached to any single model run, because if we look at the GFS model, it does show that same big blast of cold air coming down, and it does show a storm system, but it's definitely positioned much farther east. It puts significantly less snow on fewer people. It still forms a pretty strong nor'easter type storm, but it stays out to sea for the most part. If we remember our last storm, the GFS was consistently terrible at figuring out where the storm was going to track. It was wrong throughout the entire forecast period. The European model was definitely much closer to being accurate. So I don't know how much confidence we should put into the GFS solution, but it's definitely worth mentioning as we start tracking our next potential major winter storm. The key takeaway here is that we're locked into this pattern for the foreseeable future. The same meteorological setup that gave us our historic ice and snowstorm is still in place. Arctic air continues to pour down from Canada, and storm systems continue to develop along the boundary between that cold air and warmer air from the Gulf. We're not done with winter weather by any means. In fact, we may just be getting started with what could be one of the most active and dangerous winter patterns in recent memory. The combination of persistent cold and repeated storm systems creates the potential for multiple significant weather events over the coming weeks. For those still dealing with power outages and dangerous conditions from our last storm, please continue to prioritize safety. Check on neighbors, especially elderly residents. Keep alternative heating sources ready, and know where your nearest warming centers are located. This cold pattern is going to persist, and we may have another major storm to deal with very soon. That's pretty much all the weather analysis I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for all the support over the past week. We've broken so many engagement records on the channel. Not only were snowfall records and temperature records broken by this storm, but we reached more people than ever with our coverage, and we couldn't have done that without your support. Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next update. Stay safe out there.